Yeah, I come from men that stand. I'm in the field and you just sit in the stands. Take that bass out your voice. If you ain't got no gun in your hand, I do what I want. And you don't even do what you can, you do what you told. I got no love for my foes that can mimic my delivery and copy my prose. But what they can't comprehend is how I stick to this code. It's either in you or not. It's not the kicks and the clothes. They ain't cut from the same cloth, can't come from the same loom, fit in similar shapes or even sit in the same room. Confusing authenticity with part of the costume. I'm teaching gifted children, you can't come in this classroom.
Dare to struggle, dare to win.
Got the button stuck and everything. Welcome back to Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win. Here with your boy Geechee, y'all, and Dr. Yusef, Bunchy, Shakur. Episode 9. How you feeling, bro?
I'm feeling good, man. How you feeling?
Feeling cool, enjoying this hot ass weather in Atlanta. I'm not so sad or mad about it.
We had 64 in Detroit yesterday.
Oh yeah. So what y'all doing up there with all that heat, bro?
Oh no, it was back to in the 40s, 45 today, brother.
Man, listen, man, we want to welcome y'all to episode 9, Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win. This is obviously a CMB podcast here on Black Liberation Media, where you'll hear radical politics from people from CMB and the people that we interview. I'm here in Atlanta, brother Yusef in Detroit, and what we.
I'm gonna say you keep saying that, but we might have some new listeners. What is and who is CMB?
We might listen, but also, what we need y'all to do real quick, we need y'all to copy the link and share it to somebody. We're gonna have our good brother Dr. Jared Ball come on and have a conversation around culture, entertainment, media. Some of y'all might feel some type of way about your favorite artist or entertainer, but you'll get over it. And then later on, we're supposed to have an update from our Delaware chapter. So we'll hopefully see the comrades later on. But until then, like I wanna start something really quickly before we bring Jared on. We're gonna start a little early too. But we've been having conversations around like solidarity economics. We're having a resistant bill conference that's coming to Atlanta. And I've been going back in Mercer Baradaround's book. So people have known, and I could be wrong, but I do remember that she said she initially started out doing a study on banks in the U.S. And after doing her study, she actually found out that the U.S. government was intentionally harming Black people through the banking industry. And so she ended up changing the book to A Color of Money. But one of the things that I kind of really wanted to kind of focus on was this idea of Black capitalism, and obviously Jared talked about this extensively in his book, but on the shows, but Black capitalism as a method to delegitimize the Black liberation or the Black power struggle, and so what I think what she even notates in her book is that a lot of times, or most of the time, that the Black capitalism rhetoric, right, only rationalize economic inequality, and it has like both groups, the Black sovereign or separatists, they're like loving it because they're saying it's self-determination, but essentially like you'll have Black businesses or Black entrepreneurs as the solution for Black issues, and sometimes even those Black entrepreneurs get like small federal aid or public policy to help them, right? You see money go to the small businesses, but essentially it's in an environment that they probably won't fail. I mean, it probably won't succeed. So I guess I kind of want to like talk a little bit about that in terms of how it looks for us to be years later still kind of trying to solve our political issues through what we call, I guess, as John Hope Bryan says, silver rights, right? Get in the bag and kind of fix our situation. So I don't know if you got any thoughts with that. And I'm going to play a small clip of Nixon saying his little thing, but I don't know what kind of thoughts you have around that.
Yeah, only you about to go to where I was going to point. Actually, Comrade Quasi here in Detroit, he talks about this very passionately in relationship to Nixon and how Nixon duped and co-opted the black struggle, the black power movement, with this idea around black capitalism. I'm not well versed in it, but he talks about it. So you might be about to hit it with the Nixon point right now that you about to do.
Black power seems to be shifting. Some aspects of black power are very disturbing to us because it means revolution. It means violence. But other aspects of black power are very constructive because it means that black people, they want to stand on their own feet. They want to have black banks and not just go to white banks. They want to have black businesses and not just go to the white businesses. And they should have, and they will have.
So again, like if I don't think many people probably trace that to it, but we're kind of still stuck in this idea of like, yo, like black businesses as a method, or a black business will do a thing. And even when you think about all of the policies, when you're in communities, they like, you know, the social programming always help out the small businesses and the entrepreneurs. Like instead of money and resources going directly to the people, it's kind of like we're gonna help this small group, right? And a lot of times the help it be like financial literacy courses or business development, vision boards, and maybe sometimes a little capital, but it doesn't do anything as it relates to like even solving their particular issues. So some of even the black businesses, they're not in a position to help themselves, more so solve social issues. But yeah, I thought it's always interesting and we have that conversation, but the conversation is so hard, right? So we just saw the young sister who raised like $100,000 for the Black Project 2025, right? Raised a bunch of money and then she like diving into some cryptocurrency and stuff where she literally is on the path to losing a whole bunch of money and grifting a bunch of people. So what do you think it would take to get rid of like seeing entrepreneurship as actually a solution as opposed to recognize that was kind of the trick bag we was pushed into?
That's a loaded question. I think people are just going to have to continue to fail. And part of the fail is also the reconfiguring how we operate and see ourselves. Like W. Du Bois talked about the double consciousness of black folks in this country. And so on one hand, fundamentally black people just want to be myself, and they don't see what they're doing as a means to their own destruction, because it's the pull yourself up in the bootstrap mentality. And so we have to help people reconfigure that, because ultimately, like when you think about like here in Detroit, Henry Ford, in reality, everybody is not going to be a Henry Ford. But to be a Henry Ford, that means Geechee and Yusef has to go to war, or I have to cross you out. You have to cross me out. And I mean, and the same thing like in the streets. Like when I was in prison, we in the hole, everybody talking about they selling drugs. And somebody here was like, man, all you niggas couldn't be selling drugs. If everybody selling drugs, where was the goddamn crackheads? and the rock got real quiet. So in that context, like somebody has to be the consumer. Somebody has to be, but who wants to be that? Who doesn't want to be that? So it's really, we just trapped in the trick bag.
Yeah. I think even just like, I think Baradaran wrote in the book around like the interpretations of what black capitalism is, and then maybe even like political utility of it, because again, like there's industries that are totally heavily subsidized by the US government and their tax dollars. But when it comes to like even those black entrepreneurs, like they're not really getting that type of incentives or money from the government. But even if they did, like if it's heavily regulated or controlled by industry, it almost like squeezes you from being successful. And even like I saw this thing on the sister who created the honey pot, which was that feminine product that has been booming. Like she literally said that she was in business with her main intent was to sell out. She wanted to make a business big enough so that she could sell it for more money than she would have made. So that's like literally a lot of people's even game plan. Like they know they're not going to have enough capital to be successful in the first place, but they're hoping that they can be successful enough to where somebody, a big bank, come take little bank. And so it's like even our plans of like the goal is literally for one of us to get a bag. That's kind of like, and you said this last episode, like ultimately, whether it being buy black or circulating the dollar, like the goal is for that person who's pushing it to get a bag, and it doesn't, trickle down into, I guess something sustainable or any powerful. So
No, again, that's what I'm saying. Where we're duped into, because I mean, fundamentally, who don't want to live in a nice house? Who don't want to be able to go start a car and don't have to worry about if you drive a couple blocks, it breaks down on you. Go to a nice restaurant and things of these nature, right? And that should be your human right. But in a country like America, that it's not a human right because it's tied to finances, right? And so at the end of the day, what can I do to be able to maximize myself to do that? And we all have, or they dupe us into these entrepreneur dreams to be the next Henry Ford. But then, like for us, like, oh, you can be the next Jay-Z. That's why we vicariously live through Jay-Z.
right.
We don't care for him, but the fact like he's a leader because he's a billionaire, but because wealth is so important in this country, it erases anything negative of you. I mean, like 50 Cent, so he sounds so smart now because he of his wealth, but in reality, he's not a smart guy, and most wealthy people are not. But because they have wealth, we attach other things to them.
Right. Yeah, I remember when I sneaked into the Earn Your Leisure Invest Fest, I got to sit in the front row seats when 50 was talking, and he said, I didn't want to be here with you niggas. If they didn't pay me, I wouldn't be on the stage.
He said that's what he wow.
No, but listen, I want to give a shout out to Yusef for suggesting or reminding me of this. I'm going to get you sucker. So instead of taking a regular segue to bring on our brother Jared, I want to play a little clip. So you should turn it up really loud if you're going to get a drink or going to the bathroom so you can kind of listen to this before Jared come on. And as Jared backstage, Jared, I want you to just open up telling me your thoughts, your reflections, and what you remember about this crazy ass movie. So y'all stay tuned. We can bring Jared right up. Hello? Hello? Is anybody here?
Yes, my brother. How may I help you?
Yeah, are you Kalinga, leader of the People's Revolutionary Army?
Are you CIA?
No,
I am Kalinga.
I need to talk to you.
Yes. Have a seat. Would you care for something to eat? A bean pie, perhaps?
No, I'm not hungry.
Something to drink. Please sit down. Herb tea. A soda.
Okay, soda's fine.
Articulate your needs. I'm here to listen. How may I help you?
Well, first of all,
It's an acquired taste. Now, how may I help you, my brother?
look, I'm here because I can't stand what's happening in this community.
Yes!
Yeah, and somebody has to make a change.
Yes!
Now, brother, will you help me?
Yes! Well! I wish I could.
Damn it, man, I heard the People's Revolutionary Army was once 1,000 strong. Now, what happened?
They got government jobs.
What?
You know that government office building on 25th Street?
Yeah?
We went down to take it over. But they were hiring that day. The brothers walked in with guns. They came out with jobs. The brothers weren't mad anymore. Yes. Whitey is something else.
Damn.
My great Nubian warrior. Dinner's ready.
We have a guest. Meet my old Fay wench.
So Jared, what was that? What did you see and what do you remember about that crazy ass movie?
First of all, peace and greetings, everybody. Congratulations, Dr. Shakur.
Yeah.
And it's good to be with you all. It's the same thing I thought when I first saw the scene. It's funny. The movie's funny, but it is disrespectful to these histories. I mean, you literally got a picture of Jamil Alameen on the wall behind him. Dude is still locked up. And they've turned it into a comedy routine. So I get it. I get the critique. I get the jokes. I just think that it's kind of standard fare for how revolutionary politics and histories have been represented. Even going back to Superfly, if folks remember that one of those scenes where the brother comes in with the red, black, and green and the kufi, and it's just lampooned as Superfly is the cop is turned into the hero. So, but yeah, that's what I think. And then, by the way, if I heard correctly, White Chicks 2 is being made. So the Wayans family is playing down to the opponent, as they used to say in sports.
Shit is crazy. So what we wanted to do was kind of have like a broader conversation around the Vernon philosophy, which you wrote, and it's in the link, right? So I guess started out here, if you can just lay out what that is, but then I guess the second part, like the part where Mahershala Ali was saying like he only got so much of the material. He did the best he could with the material, and so it's kind of start out with what the philosophy is, and then go into that like initial part of Vernon only getting so much of the material.
Well, I think folks who certainly watched you all discuss it and Renee discuss it, I think it was very well represented. Essentially, the idea is just that we need to be more critical and careful with the media environment we're dealing with, especially when we enjoy it. And it was my attempt to just start with sort of entry level discussion of some what I would hope would lead to more critical analysis around what media do, how they function, and all of that. So I thought the story there was sort of perfect because you had at the time a popular film. They were trying to push for that film to get Oscar buzz, and Ali's career was on the way up and he was getting a lot of praise. And then to read this story where the brother he's depicting literally said in his life, do not make this movie. This is not accurate. And for Ali to say he never even knew he never knew anything that the family even existed, something to that effect, that he's portraying somebody. So in other words, the performances we end up loving, a lot of the people involved have no idea what's going on or how they got there or the meaning and the history of the lines that they're saying and having, and meaning for us to have as an audience a major impact. So I thought that was a great way to start to talk about how the people we often see on camera and on mic are the least powerful people in the process of the production of that media. And then to say, what are we being invited to as these stories get told, and as they get told better and better with better actors and better technological production, it's going to get more and more difficult. So, and that was essentially it. And that's why I even said in there, it's just an intellectual boycott. I wasn't even trying to call for, let's walk out of them. I wasn't even trying to do that. I was trying to say, look, we all honestly engage a lot of stuff. To admit a contradiction, I got one eye on the Champions League playing right now, Real Madrid versus Athletic Madrid. Like, I'm totally disturbed at how much this impacts my life. And so my point is, as someone who studies this and studies my whole professional career, the harm, I'm still wrapped up in it. So the idea that any of us should talk about, like, I'm free of this and now I'm going to free, like, I thought was unfair. So I was just trying to say, look, we're all going to get caught up, but as we like it more, we should just be more critical and then see if that takes us to another stage.
And thank you for that vulnerable and honest point of view. And thanks earlier for the shout out on the doctor. I was the hard work, man, and folks like you pay.
Listen, I don't mean to interrupt you, but listen, a lot of times, and rightfully so, people talk trash about those of us who go through this process, and not often enough is it respected or appreciated. Yeah. And a lot of people go into it the way you have, not to become a traitor,
yeah,
but to make so I know it wasn't easy, and I appreciate that you did it.
Yeah, thank you. So, and you kind of like me and Geechee was talking before, and I was talking about the W. Du Bois of the double conscience, and you kind of alluded to that, where whether you recognize yourself as American or not, you're swamped in it, in the dynamics of it. And it makes me think back to a comrade of mine. He was like, "What is political education?" And we had just picked up M1 and Dead Prayers from the airport. We had him in the show, and he said it like in the most simplest way. Like, political education is like, you can read a newspaper, you can watch TV, and watch news. And so I want to frame it in that way around the Vernon Jones philosophy that you wrote, and the critique in what we do. And because not everybody has a political conscience, right? However, being Black, being a woman, being gay, we experience in these movies, in these stories, in this music, the impact of the words, right? And that sometimes can get a political response. But when you have a political consciousness, is it political education that's pushing us to critique these films that we enjoy?
So you're asking, wait, are you asking me? I don't know if I follow that question. Are you?
It may didn't come out right because I'm trying to.
So I think I understand. Like, I was with you up to that last part.
Yeah.
Like if you're asking me, I am trying to say with the Vernon philosophy, I am trying to do or to convey a necessity for political education.
Yeah.
To say that the same way we would be taught to read a newspaper or watch the news, we should be taught to engage so-called entertainment. Because from the perspective of those who own it and produce it and who manage the entire apparatus here, it's not entertainment. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely a counterinsurgent weapon. So it doesn't mean that that's always going to be the impact on us. Like, I'm not saying we all walk around here just totally our minds obliterated every time we watch a YouTube video. But I am saying that is the intent behind the apparatus that gives us YouTube and that gives us all these other streaming services and media. So that's what I'm asking. Yeah. So to that extent, that's exactly what I'm trying to argue with that. Just bring some political education to this and raise some serious questions about what we like, not the stuff we hate, because that's easy. It's the stuff we like that I think needs the most investigation.
So with that landing there, and for me using it as a framework, I mean, for our audience, be able to dive deeper. So let's use the clip that we just showed. Mm-hmm. Right? and I remember listening to a speech by H. Rap Brown, which he says that they were they co-opted the Black Power movement. They co-opted the Black. They neutralized it. And this clip here is it's funny, it's exciting, but also it's neutralizing, because you had other people who watch something like this. It's like, well, this is why I want to be a revolutionary. Things of this nature, because it undermines those things. So can we use that and just like kind of break that down and critique it? Even like the Snow Bunny part, right? I know Dr. Umar would love that part, right?
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, so again, that's the point. So like when I hear that White Chicks 2 is coming out, I know they're doing that because it was seen as being successful the first time. So they're going to get an audience, and they're going to get an audience that's going to end up in our classroom, that's going to end up at our dinner tables, at maybe we're going to watch it. So I think the point just has to be, well, let's raise some criticism. So with the scene like what we just saw, again, I think the scene would have, for instance, a greater impact if it was in the context of a film that was actually about revolution, revolutionary politics, struggle, and then you put something like that in there to make a point. But when it's put in without the balance of the explanation, and you just see those images, and you just see the dashiki and the wicker chair that's meant to tap into that subconscious around Huey Newton and all those types of things, then it just does, I think, have the overall impact of conveying to an audience, which is going to be largely Black, that this stuff is silly, and Keenen Ivory Wayans' character is he's the one that represents most of us in the audience. He's the one trying to figure this out, and he's the one, we might walk into a room like that, and then as soon as we see some dude with a dashiki and his afro out, we're gonna be, oh, here we go. And now today, I do think, by the way, that this is part and parcel of today's problem with the Hotep and all that other kind of stuff. Like, there's been an intentional assault on those politics. And then the point being, so like, the reference to the CIA and the co-optation with government jobs, like, all of that is legit, but it's made silly in scenes like that and in that context. So then that's how we end up with all this stuff around, for instance, all the condemnation around who could be considered to have been assassinated and who isn't. And how do we know that, how do we know what an assassination would look like in 2025? It's not going to look like it looked like in 1963, but we can't have that kind of conversation if it's all just made silly. Mm-hmm. And the idea that that the state would target radical groups is lampooned, which is why that scene even right now is even more disturbing, in the sense that Jamil Al-Amin is literally locked up under some state's conspiracy, while his picture is in the poster in a scene lampooning the idea of a state conspiracy against Black revolutionaries. It's
so I think, and I don't want to necessarily like argue which part of the work that we're all doing in revolution, which part is important, which part is more serious. But one of the things that I was just thinking about as you was talking about, like the impersonators, they can mimic people's voices, and we know somebody can mimic Denzel's voice, and we'll know it's Denzel and Jamie Foxx, and they're really talented. They can sing, and one of the family members in your article said that it was a symphony of lies behind, and I'm thinking about lies behind a dope beat, beautiful or talented artist. I wonder how you feel the necessity of doing this type of work as it relates to like helping us develop an analysis. I think that's the first question, and then maybe I'll remind you. But the second question is, even when we have to like struggle against people's families, like, so for instance, Martin Luther King's children is probably not going to share his radical politics. So sometimes, as you look at like the article that you talked about, like his family was like, that's not the true story. Well, the family don't legitimize the story either. So I'm just curious, like, how you feel the importance of this type of work as it relates to like a larger struggle. Because some people might think it's like, oh, it's just critiquing movies and shit.
Again, I understand why they would think that, but that's, and I think that's part of, for instance, what I was just, shouting out Dr. Shakur for, like the privilege of having been able to go through a PhD in media studies was that it gave me time to solely focus on the development of this media apparatus. And that for me was life-changing, even after Africana studies and some time in some Black radical circles, because it shows you, it introduced me to what they themselves said they were doing. And it's the early research, a lot of the articles, a lot of the existing, it's very clear that, they're taking state intelligence agency, big corporation money to study how to manipulate public opinion for a variety of reasons, all of it so that they can extract, exploit, and maintain order. So it has become impossible for me to just simply say, even as I have an eye on this game, that this is just entertainment, or this is like it's just about making money. They have themselves said it's not about that. They're very clear what's going on here. When Dr. Orisami Burton and Jared Ware on Millennials Are Killing Capitalism go through Frank Kitzen's work. I mean, it's in a militarized context. The internet is military technology. So it's just very difficult for me not to see the importance of this work. It's also just what I happen to, kind of accidentally end up being quote unquote trained to do. So I don't know how better to use my time and make myself of value to anybody else, really. Like I don't know what else. So I think it's extremely important. And then I don't know how best to handle the conflict that it often can develop between family, friends, colleagues, comrades. It's sometimes uncomfortable, and sometimes people take it very personally if you criticize their favorite. It's not even that you're criticizing their favorite artist or entertainer. It's the context in which the art is being produced, and it's still very much like, hold up, son, who are you talking about? Like, and I'm like, I'm not hating on your favorite whoever. I'm just saying. And then look at the politics of the movie, and then I'll stop here. But whenever I've seen something depicted that I think I have some expertise in, it's way off. So that's the other thing. It's like, how can you read all of this about, Malcolm and not have a critique of Spike's film? How can you read about Steve Biko and then look at this Donald Woods book that they made into a movie and just be wrapped up in Denzel's performance? Like, you can't do that. First of all, they make it easy because I think I'm gonna go back and watch it. I think they killed Denzel off pretty early in that movie, so it's kind of easy to. But the point is, so anyway, that's what I think. I don't know if I got to both of your questions there, but I think that's sort of what I think about it.
So, Jerry, now I'm on the other side of interviewing you on my platform. I have a very important question for you, good brother.
All right.
And actually some pictures came up in my Facebook memories. It was like when we met. I don't think you remember. Do you remember when we first met?
No.
It was in DC. It was when Dominique brought me down there to be on your show, and then
That's right. That's right.
We went over to Howard. We had the event at Howard.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was over 11 years ago, almost 11 years ago.
Yeah.
So my question is, like, we talk about here in the Vernon Jones, but what was your start to develop your political role, to developing your political education?
I mean, I did have a sort of an unorthodox upbringing, and I was always sort of encouraged to think differently from what was the norm. But I mean, I kind of meant what I said in the Vernon philosophy thing. Like I'm, when me and Vernon first had that conversation outside of the pizza spot, I was a very different person, a much younger, very different, far less politically educated person. And when he raised this whole question of, I don't want to see Black people in movies anymore, and it really did kind of throw me off for a second. Like, how could you not want to see movies with Black people in it? Like, it didn't make any sense. And then it just, again, as I went into studied a little more and then finally went through the whole grad school experience and really focused on it, it was like, how could you, he was exactly right. We should feel that way. But really the beyond what I just said, the radicalism was kind of like what a lot of people in my generation went through. I read Malcolm X and I thought, I just read all those Malcolm books and thought I figured it out. And he said this country had perfected the science of image making. He was talking about it. He was talking about the manipulation of the press. And then as I've kind of gone back and reread things or read things with a different focus, a lot of folks in so-called the traditions of Africana studies talked about. I was just reading earlier today in Eugene Puryear's Black Belt thesis book. Du Bois has a little article. I mean, Du Bois, he talked about the propaganda of history in Black Reconstruction. He called all history propaganda. Then he's talking about the manipulation of the press to this is 100 years ago. He's talking about the manipulation within the press to get Black people to want to be consumers and business people. So it's people have, anyway, my point is that if once I sort of stopped, adjusted my focus a little bit, slowed down, paid attention differently, all of these arguments became very, very clear. And I've, and then having that just sort of be my focus, I just have been picking up on these messages in people's work for a long time. And a lot of people have been pointing us in this direction, including folks like Jamil Al-Amin and people in the most militant wings of the Black liberation struggle. They were talking about the manipulation of these struggles in the press. Dhoruba gave a speech critical of Spike Lee's movie before it came out that I'm still trying to get Alambe Breath to get me another tape of, or Cinque Breath rather, because it was at his father Alambe's event. But say where he said Dhoruba yelled at the audience and said, if y'all hadn't believed all the propaganda that the police put in the paper about us, the Black Liberation Army might have been more successful. He's like, but it was you in our own community that believed the hype against us. So, anyway, so I mean, it's been, I don't know if I fully answered your question or got to the point, but it's everybody's argument has involved some sort of invitation to get us to be critical of our media environment. It seems like everybody has a version of that. So I just have made that more of my focus over time.
So one of the things that I've been appreciating about you, Jared, is like when people say a thing or call you to a space, like you don't concede spaces, like you will go on panels, you'll go on shows. If somebody say this movie is all that, and you'll be like, no, it's not, and you'll watch it, right? You'll suffer through it. And we both know sometimes people don't do the same for you. But I would want to share this one clip, right? I'm not this clip, I'm sorry, but this passage. And I want to ask you, are you being too rough when you say we gain nothing from pop culture depictions of radical histories, but distorted versions which work more to recreate them as immaturities or imperfections to overcome, or worse, as somehow accepting of the world as we know it, as inevitable or as empowerment? Would you say that like I don't know, you hear like people be like, well, I was radicalized by it, or it changed me. Like how do you respond to that? And then even, maybe like the clone of Tyrone, like the government is telling us everything we need to know. Shit. Like how do you respond to that?
I mean, that movie I really thought I've really felt that maybe more than anything that the apparatus was mining and trolling us and saying, we're going to tap into all your conspiratorial fears and give you a little something to enjoy and play with. I don't know. Maybe a lot of people have said or suggested that argument is too harsh. I don't think it is, but I would rather err on that side is really the point I'm getting at. That first of all, I don't believe, and I don't think there's any evidence for certainly mass radicalization in response to pop culture. So the fact, and this is sort of my point about the effectiveness versus intent. And for the most part, I don't want to debate impact. So if you say it worked for you and made you a revolutionary, fine. If you say it didn't, fine. If you say you weren't tricked by the propaganda, fine. If you admit that you were, fine. My only interest is in the intent. And to me, the intent is so well documented that which is that the intent is to misrepresent these politics, to manage public opinion, to turn all of us into some variation of a quote unquote good citizen. So if okay, great. If you saw such and such a movie and got radicalized, I mean, that's beautiful. And let's go and get more radicalized. You know what I'm saying? Like, get more, you know. But I just think that the evidence is very, very clear that it doesn't happen in mass. So, and that's certainly not the intent. Yeah, yeah, that really, you know what? And honestly, because, and I developed that in grad school, Maggie, because there's so many people that have tried in some variation of media studies to argue this word agency. And I don't like it. I admit I don't like that we all have agency. You're diminishing my agency when you say it's effective. And people, and okay, fine. Fine. You have agency. We all have agency. You're free as a bird. But can you at least acknowledge that they said the goal here is to mess with us? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if we don't understand that that's the goal, then we'll say, oh, no, they slipped in a reference to Malcolm X. I read a Malcolm book after I saw the reference. So it can't be bad. And I just think that's not how it works. And there's a lot of literature. I remember in one of my favorite things, and I don't mean to go too long with this, but I do remember one of my favorite parts in grad school was reading articles about Ken Burns and his PBS documentary stuff, and how this country had made him sort of the unquestioned national documentarian. And there were a lot of great articles that we were asked to read or found in grad school that were talking about, in particular, just one example, the effect of the documentary. When you call it a documentary, it conveys an authority that people unwittingly just accept. So they see a Ken Burns documentary and they're like, oh, I'm good. I get it. I know jazz now. I know baseball. I know the Civil War. I know what was the other one he did? The Pocahontas story or something like that. You know, he's like, I get it. I know all the histories now because Ken Burns did he's a supranational documentarian who made a documentary. It's real. So that's why in those, what's that series? Fargo. They always start the show, this is based on a true story. It's a play on that very logic, that when you see that it's based on a true story, you automatically start to think it's real. And they did it for dramatic effect to make their fake story seem that much more dramatic to the audience, because they know that this is, all you got to do is say this is based on a true story. And people are like, and they forget based. And they're like, oh, it's all true. You're like, no. So I, you know, again, I maybe have, you know, maybe it's too much I'm doing right there, but I'd rather err on that side.
So follow up to Geechee question. I'm curious, where does I mix what you like come into play in relationship to this atmosphere of propaganda? And all propaganda is not bad or evil. It all depends on how you utilize it, right? And
that's right.
So when you're producing and what what really gave birth to that, and especially now, like I don't know how long you've been doing it, and where now everybody has a platform, everybody's talking this and talking that, where you was kind of talking about it years ago with, in particular with the name that you chose, right, which was political.
So I there's some room for dispute, but I really have to give credit to a buddy of mine who, because I used to do what was called free mix radio, the original mixtape radio show. And he said, well, you're using mixtapes to do what Steve Biko did in print. So you should, and he used to do it under the pseudonym Frank Talk in columns. I write what I like. So you should call it I mix what I like. And I was like, that's dope. That was pretty hot. And that's like, I don't know, it's like 25 years ago now. And so that just always became, and then so I was always trying to argue that what Biko did was emancipatory journalism in trying to promote and spread Black consciousness to create an anti-colonial struggle or encourage anti-colonial struggle. So I was like, I like that. That's what I want to do. I'm trying to do that. And that was that. I will say, I mean, I like other people, like following. So a lot of the arguments that I've evolved are not, you know, super original. They're, you know, the Vernon philosophy is just, I mean, it's just a softer, look at that. And Real Madrid just won. So Mbappe's going through. So that's, I can't even front that I'm so disappointed. This is perfect timing too. Like I can't front that you know, like, so I know my daughter's happy. I'm an Mbappe fan, so this is all big. So like, but that's crazy. So like this is perfect. And that's the team of the king of Spain that I'm rooting for. You know what I'm saying? Like that has a very colonial history. It's and they call them the team. The team is referred to as the whites because they wear all white. So it's oh man, I'm messed up. But anyway, that was the what I've learned in, I mean, I'm thinking of Herbert and Dan Schiller, like white leftist scholars in media communication, like who 40 years ago were saying, if you pay attention, advances in media technology have been concomitant and run parallel with the expansion of American empire throughout the West, and initially as they expanded west and then into the world. So like when they would put up Western Union, well, even before that, post office outposts for people to ride the horse and deliver mail, they put up that would always come with a militarized armed guard. So the point being that you don't get advances in communicative technology without it having a militarized purpose. So as the internet was evolving, and I'm doing pirate radio and local radio and making mixtapes that are handed out in DC and all this kind of stuff, and people are like, nah, the internet's coming. This is the artists don't need the industry anymore, and everybody, it's going to be a level playing field now, and I got a blog and you got a blog and I'm gonna have this. And I'm like, whoa, this argument's already been, it's like what DeRuba said, like we've already had this argument. They've already shown that all this is going to bring is more surveillance, more militarism, more confusion around the capability that we all have. And I think we're right. So you're right. Everybody, for all the good work we do, they're able to produce. And the more I'm learning about, the whole right-wing white supremacist, dark enlightenment, subterranean internet community is super powerful and everywhere. So anyway, so advertisers have more power, consolidated platforms and ownership is more powerful. Again, my favorite example is Lear Cohen is still running and ruining hip hop at a bigger stage as he runs YouTube Music. This is if that alone should be enough evidence. That alone should be all that we need to know that this has been a jacked up setup. And so yeah, I probably lost sight of your question again, but that's
it's all good, brother.
Yeah,
you started off strong, man.
Listen.
I mean, just for the record, if my Wolverines was to be playing, I'd have one eye on the TV too. So I relate.
So we hear the 9th episode of Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win. I'm sitting here with 2 doctors so I can expedite my second opinion. That's a bar. That's a bar.
Okay.
No, so we sit here with Jared Ball talking about some Vernon philosophy of Black media avoidance. And we got a few minutes. I'm not sure if our comrades from Delaware are going to stand us up, but if they do, we might can pull Jared for a few minutes of Q&A. But Jared, I wanted to ask you your thoughts of one of the last lines, and then if there was any research that you probably can point to or talk about. But there's something to be like a cockiness of cinema. Like once we watch cinema, it gives the audience some type of clarity around a topic. And as you said, like there's no need to follow up for more study. Like I wonder again if you can kind of share your thoughts around how people might say, like I watched the movie, so I'm an expert. But then also if you know if there's like a study out there that kind of say like, yeah, majority of people do this thing.
So I'm sure there are more studies than I'm aware of. I will say that off the top in my classes right now, we're using the 5th edition of Propaganda and Persuasion, which is a by Jowett and O'Donnell. It's not a radical text per se, but it's a nice overview of some of the sort of the basics of media studies approach to the topic. And in there there is a section. So there's not I don't know about a particular, or I'm sure there are more studies, but in fact I'm having a memory problem with some of this right now. But in this case here, they do have a section here where they talk about film. And there's been a lot of discussion, obviously, the specifics of movies and their effectiveness in propaganda. Maybe I'll come back and or we'll talk again, and I'll have a better list ready. But in short, the point has been that you get a captive audience, which is why if folks of maybe closer to my age will remember, I think my generation, probably the last generation that went to a movie and could sit quietly before the movie started. Like now you go in there, they got something running constantly. There's all kinds of ads and commercial. If you show up 15, 20 minutes early to a movie, you're not going to be able to sit quietly and talk to whoever you're with. You're going to be watching something together because they know you're a captive audience. You can't go anywhere. You have bigger screens, increased Dolby sound technology, surround sound. They got the speakers in the seats now. They got reclining seats now. They got, you're fully immersed. So it gets dark in there. So you are relaxed. You're made more susceptible. You're more, again, no distract. You're not even allowed to open up your phone. There's nothing else but getting that messaging. And then I think, again, a non-radical source, but Marshall McLuhan is right that digital technology is an extension of the consciousness in the same way a phone extends the technology of our voice, or a bike or a car extends the technology of our legs, or a pen or a pencil extends the technology of our hand. Digital technology, he argued, extends the tool of our consciousness. So we're just having someone else's consciousness poured. And now again, with beautiful people, we get to see the most beautiful, talented people with the best camera angles and lighting and sound. And then they go in and redub the sound and dub the dub. So everything is just perfect. And you're in there and it's just, and every scene, I mean, for the most part, these scenes are meticulously orchestrated. So every single thing in there is there for a reason. Product placement, symbolism. I mean, in the 50s, they're talking about put some Negroes in the background so that we can convey an integrated society. I mean, it's like, it's so. And then we're saying this is great. They know that we're going in there. Sometimes they said they would even talk about some of these articles talk about the theater as a comfort zone. You get air conditioning in the summer, heat in the winter, so you can you go in there and you're completely we're going in there to get entertained, to take a break from our rough day, which of course is understood. Working people are overworked. They're tired. They're this, they're that. They don't want to go read books and articles and watch podcasts. We've said it ourselves. Sometimes, look, I just want to turn on something stupid and just. So they know that. So that's why, again, films have always. That's why the Pentagon has this intimate relationship with them to use it as recruitment. I'm trying to prepare for the People's Forum presentation, and I'm reviewing all the propaganda stuff. I mean, I think I want to say almost every single thing is being written by an intelligence agency or an ad agency. It's like nobody's out, like there's nobody out here like, let me just write a good sitcom for my people. Like that doesn't, like, I don't think you could do that anymore. I think like it's by the time it hits the screen, so many ad buyers and intelligence agencies, state, that so again, I just think it's brain rot. Yeah, but it's imposed brain rot that we're getting. All for the expressed and understood purposes that if they don't do that, we'll spend more time in conversations like this. We'll have more questions about the society. We might organize some sort of rebellious activity. So this is all, yeah. But yeah, I at some point I would like to revisit that particular question with like a little more preparation. Though it's a good question. Though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yusef, you got another last question before we go into some of those comments?
I mean, it wouldn't be right if we didn't ask you a question about the myth of the black buying power. What has been one of the biggest misconceptions around your position on that?
That Jared hates black people and black freedom and,
okay.
and wants us all to be poor and seriously, like that's second to that is that I have a problem with black entrepreneurialism, or that I'm condemning any effort at self-reliance. And that's not the point. That's not the point at all. If anything, I'm just trying to say that the myth was created. Yeah, he's a raccoon. I still can't believe he said that to me or said that about me. And it's wild because like my childhood self is like a ghetto boy is talking about me. And it's kind of like, wow.
Who said that?
Willie D.
Willie D
called me a raccoon, called me a trade. He called me all types of stuff. And all I it was like, wow.
I only like Bushwick Bill anyway. Okay, no.
Yeah. But I mean, I just was like, you know, so, but there's been a lot of that kind of stuff. And so, but so that's the biggest misconception, that I am opposed to black entrepreneurial and black self-reliance, and that I think that I think somehow that we shouldn't do anything, or I'm advocating not doing, you know, something like that. But I will also say that I think at least 99% of those critics have not actually read the book. And that's probably my biggest frustration, that people are not, too many people are saying too much without actually just reading it. And it's not very long. I don't think I wrote it in any kind of, you know, inaccessible language. I just, you know, so that has been, I admit, a little bit frustrating and disappointing. And we were talking earlier that you know, when I've read Bob Marley or Dead Prez, you talked about M1, you know, Dead Prez, like they used to talk about how they had a hard time reaching their own audience because of the media environment that would block those kinds of messages. And I kind of feel like for the first time, I fully understand that point, that I felt like my work that has been intended to reach a black audience has been blocked by the very apparatuses put in place that you would think should help that process, but are here for a very different reason. And it's that, yeah. And by some specific people too, that I think it's like, wow, we know each other a little bit. Like how are we not having a better conversation? But yeah.
I think John Henry Clark's quote, the more you talk, the more you let me know what you haven't read, how much you haven't read. But so yeah, that's a dope bar.
I used that line on one of my students yesterday morning, as a matter of fact, because I put all my instructions on Canvas and then they don't read them, and they're like, "But Dr. Ball, what do I do?" And I'm like, "You are confessing what you have not read, young sister, young brother."
So you know, you have a clip right here that we're gonna find that clip and put it in there. So let's run through a couple questions in the chat before we bounce. So yeah, there was some love for the intent versus effectiveness. I think people are going to be using that. There was one in here that, so is there anything you have watched that passes the Vernon philosophy? And I know they said read earlier, but I know they edited that because we obviously can answer that. But anything you have watched that has passed the Vernon philosophy or an exception to it?
I don't know. I felt like a couple of challenges. Like I said, you know, I still think Queen and Slim is a really big challenge to me. In terms of like mainstream commercial media, that for me came very close to because I walked out of there, I felt like I was in a whole other world. I had a very emotional. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was asking something. Damn, I finally found something you and I agree on real easy.
I just felt. Yeah.
I went and watched that movie about 10 times. That's just how much it impacted me.
Yeah, I get that. So there's challenges like that. Catch a Fire, I remember, had me up until the very, very last scene. And I won't ruin it if folks haven't seen it. But Catch a Fire might have had me thinking, like, I was ready to be a Hollywood believer for a second. And then they had that very, very, very end scene. I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. Now I get it. But so look, I expect there will be more challenges. Somebody put Archer in the chat. I don't, Archer doesn't, like I do love the show, but I think again, like to borrow from my old professor, how do you know what you know and why do you like what you like? And we should always interrogate our preferences. I've always liked his line, and we didn't agree on anything. He and I had a very contentious student-professor relationship, but I've always appreciated his point there. We should interrogate our preferences. And the more we like something, given the context that we're in, the more we have to. Django. Somebody put Django in the chat. That movie is trash. I can't stand that movie. But yeah, I just think we should be more. The Swallows have won. Yeah.
So there's a couple.
That's a good question, though. That's a good question.
Yeah. So there's definitely. I appreciate it too. I'm always grateful that Jared introduced us to the science of coercion. I've been like pulling quotes out of there, hitting people in the head with it. Well, here's one real quick.
Just quickly, Chris Simpson has other work too, by the way, and he was brilliant and a very unassuming white dude that had that they gave a hard time to at American University. They gave him a hard time at he had gone through the program at Maryland before I did, and I remember there were faculty that were bothered that I found his work in grad school because they hated him from when he was there. So that dude is sharp, yeah.
So dovetailing with the analysis of a movie theater, how does Dr. Ball see the impact of COVID and a heavier emphasis on home movies and streaming? How does he see that changing the media landscape, if at all?
I don't think it'll. So I think some of the differences are mitigated by the fact that these corporations have predictably consolidated these platforms, and they've turned them into high quality productions that you see on a small screen. So I think that the largely the same process occurs. So even if you're not fully consumed in a theater atmosphere, whether you're on your headphones or just even in your own small space, I think the effectiveness is still largely the same.
Word.
And the intent is still the same. So again, I want to come back to that. The intent is still the same.
I always like the conversations around intent and impact. I think it's always fascinating.
Yeah, I did like American Fiction Cynical, but that was the point. But I was wrong to like it. It got me. I got.
I'm trying. I remember one time what was that film you called it Revolutionary?
Oh snap! I was probably wrong.
Candyman is the new version.
I did like the Candyman. Yeah, you're right. Thank you for that. Yeah, I loved that new version. Did you
stay off the shelf?
But But
I never.
Did you like it?
Oh, you didn't actually, because your commentary made me want to go watch it in the way you framed it.
Look, if we ever want to do a part 2, like take a couple months or weeks and let's watch it again and invite me back. What I thought that they did. And I think that there should, at least if we don't watch the first one, there should be some review of the first one. Cause I think the way they flipped the story in the second one makes it more of a revolutionary film.
You talking about in 1920? Oh, the 1920, 2021 one?
Yeah.
The recent one.
Yeah.
With,
I really like
Kobe Domingo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did really like that. You know what? I have to admit, somebody at Yipper's asking about Us, and then I know I never saw Us because I can't the horror of it. I can't take it. I'm too much of a punk for the horror of it. And Get Out, I thought, and my point, I think Get Out is to race what Sorry to Bother You is to class.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that both filmmakers have been forced to find a way to try to make some meaningful arguments in horror, comedy films, because they can't be any more overt than that. But I didn't feel the same way about Nope. Like some people thought Nope was a lot deeper than I didn't get. Maybe I just didn't get it. I don't know. So yeah.
No, so look, man, we appreciate you coming on, and we appreciate y'all tuning in. I know you said you got the class up in New York, which I will be coming up there for. Anything else you got coming on the platform, or just in general people can look out for?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's always going to be wild Friday mornings with Amber on the remix. You never know what's going to happen. And then I'm looking forward to our gathering on Saturdays with Renee and reviewing some stuff. But no, I don't have, other than that, big up to this new show, big up to the platform, and salute to all the remixers, and let's keep it moving. I love it. I am doing an interview Friday, pre-recorded, so it'll end up here in some form with the filmmaker from Soundtrack to a Coup d'Etat. So I'm gonna tell him how all my colleagues hate his film, and
tell him to send some of those original files. But yeah, sure, we hate that shit.
So folks should stay tuned for that. It's gonna show up. But Yipper's asked about the Boondocks. The strip was better than the TV show. That's my answer to that. But fellas, I appreciate this. I like this collabo. I appreciate CMB work as well. And I look forward to stepping back into the audience.
Man, thank you for having me, for coming on. We love to have you back on, man. Talking about some more things. Get some, your boy tricked me into a big old debate last week, so we can get on some real.
You gotta be careful with your boy. You gotta watch him. You gotta watch him, Dr. Shakur.
I realized that last week, man. He duped me. Co-host Diallo came out of him and shit,
Yeah, that's he got that Diallo.
Yo, listen. If we want to be 100% honest, I think his Dialloing caused the debate. At the end of this show, what we do is we all give our feedback. He gave his feedback. When it's my turn, he interjected my feedback. So he caught it straight.
All I'm saying, Dr. Shakur, watch your back. That's all I'm saying. Be careful with this cat, man. But I appreciate you, fellas. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Salute to you and the remixes.
Shout out to my man Jared, man. Shout out to
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So look, man, I know you gotta go. We gotta wrap up really quick sound bites, the conversation, and then we get up out of here.
Oh man, I thought it was dope. I think for our listeners, in relationship to the Vernon Jones, how you
Vernon philosophy.
Vernon philosophy. Vernon philosophy. I thought it brought more context. In particular, with framing it around, developing the political education. Also, I actually enjoy the human side of being political and just being human, right? And that contradiction. And we tend to forget that we're engaging in contradiction as a result of, as I keep saying, the W. Du Bois of the double conscience. And I'm not legitimizing it at all, but to reach our highest height is to be aware of the contradictions and the struggle inside those contradictions at the same time.
Yeah, man, a little bit of transparency from what we was talking about backstage, but I would like to see us be better at dealing with the entertainers, the arts, and because I asked Yusef backstage, like, was there a time when like our arts was solid and they, it wasn't a bunch of like goofy people and con artists, and I would like to see us get serious about having cultural workers who are producing stuff that's, provoking dialogue, or as they say in organizing spaces, developing codes so people can interpret those pieces of art in a way that can, ask us to push more lines and struggle for more power. So
I think to your point, the more we become more serious about our struggle, and we can wrestle that power and that influence, and that allure of America on us. And I mean, like James Brown, we tend to forget. Like James Brown just didn't wake up and make the song "I'm Black and I'm Proud." It was the atmosphere, it was the movement that influenced him, that impacted him to go in the studio and make that song. I'm not saying James Brown was a revolutionary by no means, but a revolutionary storm influenced him.
I mean, I think that's powerful. So that means we have to grapple with. We can't wait for the art to influence us. We have to influence the art.
Right. Correct. Absolutely.
That's a good shit, bro. That's good shit, man. Listen, yo, I appreciate y'all coming through, and the people rewatching. Thank you for coming through. Make sure you leave a comment. Continue the dialogue and
share. Hit that like button. Subscribe. Tell a friend to come check us out every Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Dare to struggle, dare to win. And you might get an argument at the end.
All right, y'all. Peace, y'all.
Yeah.